Hello, come join us for YHTV's Magical Medical Tour. I'm Christina Suzama with our wonderful medical guide, Dr. Glenn Woolman.
You know, I would like to be able to thank John, Dr. LaPuma, for his great expertise. There's so many questions that remain that I think a lot of people need to hear answers to, especially in the area of health and culinary delights.
Oh, yes. I mean, I think that was just a little touch in a little beginning. It was really wonderful to hear about, his perspective on things like the microwave and those oils, because I keep hearing so much, different theories. And of course, as you very well know, I have no time to do my own research.
That's the purpose of this show, Christina, to help you. We'll do your research.
Yes, of course. I love being that forever student here and just taking it all in, little pieces at a time. And it's so great because it's so valuable to actually have that trickle effect where we have like a week or two to actually implement everything we learn.
Yeah. And once it gets archived, you can check it out forever.
Oh, there you go. No, but that's fun, of course. It's like me and food.
It was interesting. John does a lot of video training. So he gets in the kitchen and does recipes and shows you, I work with him at the Santa Barbara Healing Sanctuary, where part of the sanctuary has to do with nutrition and cooking. And we even start out in certain places of teaching the people that come to the sanctuary how to recognize good foods, even out in the garden, and pick the right foods, and then come in and prepare the foods in different ways and look for more healthy things, and yet not losing any of the savoring parts of why we eat. So much of eating is about the senses. Many people live to eat, and many other people eat to live. And there are people all along that spectrum. But it's good to know that as we became less of just an agricultural society and moved into the cities, where we now have foods that can stay the same for a geological age on a shelf, and those things can affect the internal environment that we live in. We worry so much about the external environment, and we've got the environmental protection agencies looking at the smoke in the sky and carbon monoxide and methanes and all of the things in the sky. Many of those things eventually get into our own internal environment, plus we put extra things in there, and it's important for us to be aware of that. And the marketing sometimes confuses us, telling us this is good for us because it has this and that, but it doesn't necessarily translate into really good for us because it also has that and this.
And I just find it really interesting in our foods and like you brought up such a good subject about food combining. Now, I'm sure Dr. LaPuma could have spoken about that for days. I always look at the diets that we were brought up, for me, very Portuguese, very Asian diets. And when I heard about this food combining and what you shouldn't have on your plate, it completely threw me for a loop. It was like, pardon me, it's like, but that's what we grew up with. And no one in my family is overweight or, it's like, kind of going, well, we're pretty healthy, So it's,
there is,
go ahead.
It's complex.
Yes.
It's just extremely complex. And it's good that there are physicians out there and others, nutritionists and dietitians, and a lot of people are recognizing that it's more than just a protein, a calorie, a carbohydrate, or a fat. There's a lot involved in it. And I think a lot of it also becomes personal. Yes. When we look at these Ayurvedic diets that are about body type, over
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years they figured it out. And although that may not be the perfect thing for everyone, certainly there are ideas within it that make it good. In the Chinese healing arts, food is eaten. If you have too much heat in your body or too much cold, then you eat to
That's right.
counterbalance that. A
Mm-hmm.
number of these things. And as I spoke about in the talk today, the genome, the more we're finding about the genetics of our bodies, we are actually finding that some of us, as you know, have lactose tolerances or intolerances,
Mm-hmm.
and some people lack an enzyme that does this or does that. So everybody has to have a certain amount of external erudite knowledge from their reading, but be discerning in it.
Yes.
But at the same time, if you read something and then you try it out and it doesn't make you feel good, that's the other part that's very important in the process, to be somewhat intuitive, to say, yes, they're telling me this is good, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel good to me. So
Right. Right.
that's very important.
Yeah, and as long as I always say to people, give yourself at least 9 days to see if something works, because the body goes through such transitional periods, right? But I just found also what he said about that piece of toast for some people. I have so many women who've said to me, "Oh, I only have a piece of dry toast in the morning," and meanwhile, Dr. Lapuma is saying, you have to add the protein to it, and it's like,
Right. There.
wow. Yeah. I think these people would go, "Hello, I'm supposed to be adding a little bit of almond butter or peanut butter." It's amazing.
Well, sometimes we think the education we have is based on patterns of behavior that we learned, that, as you said, growing up and things like that, and concepts that we're taught. So if you have just a piece of toast, it it's really not a piece of toast. It's a minimal amount of something. And you think that by having minimalist
Mm-hmm.
foods, then that's healthier for you. And that's not the case. And there are a lot of misperceptions. I go out for meals with people and I watch someone just eat a salad, but then they pour on the
The dressing.
regular dressing that, and then they add a Diet Coke to it. So
Right,
everything about that in their mind is saying diet and healthy.
right.
And yet it's challenging at times.
It is. It is. It's very interesting. Oh, well, food and diet. I love it. But, wouldn't it be wonderful, Glenn, to start a fast food stand that is so healthy? We have a few places. I was just told of a taco stand supposedly here very close by me that was organic and vegetarian. And everything was supposed to be a very healthy taco stand. So I have yet to go suss this out now. And there's another restaurant that just opened up. I think they opened up their second one, and it's called Lemonade. And it's just, I don't know. Are you familiar with that restaurant,
I am.
Lemonade? Are
I've eaten
you?
there a number of times. Yes,
It's
I've eaten it.
lovely.
It just well, first of all, you walk in and the first sensation for me is it just feels clean.
Yes. Yes.
It just feels, and then it feels fresh.
Yes.
And then I go look at the assortment of things that they have, and there's lots of mixtures and various cultural palate tempting foods there that and the way that they set it up, it almost makes you want to try a number of things.
Right.
So yes, I have liked it. And then I must admit, although I can't admit this, to the public, I could just admit this to you, and I know nobody's watching or listening forever, but they also have right, so perfectly right at the place where you check out, they have an area of these great juices that are mixtures of, all of the fruits that I just want to dream about. And then right next to it, they have, and please close your ears, everybody. They have these great macaroons and
Yeah.
great cookies and just wonderful things. So it's a good restaurant.
It is. It's very, and how I love how you can see everything that you're choosing to eat right at that moment, and you could just, and you can taste everything as well before you decide to have it. So yes, I'm glad you know of it. Is it up in Santa Barbara as well?
No, no, not yet.
Not yet.
But I've had it down in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and for me, that's like a really, I mean, it can be like a fast food because you go in and it's like a cafeteria style. You choose what you want and you can pack it out right away.
Yeah, it's easy.
Very easy. So, well, it's starting. I think this whole new trend is starting of eating healthier and being, acknowledging what we are eating. All those textures and flavors and summer's coming and all the wonderful fruits and all are coming out. The
I
fresh
know.
the
It
fresh
was it was
eggs.
nice to hear. It was nice to hear him talk about the trend of the young children losing their obesity.
Oh,
It's a very scary thing to watch that trend happening in the other direction. So it's good to
yes.
see, or at least hear from a source anyway, that the trend, people are recognizing that something needs to be done, and maybe some people are doing something. Oh, we should take every child to an intensive care unit and show them the results of the diets that a lot of us have been on over many years, and that's the end stage process of the internal environmental changes that we make.
Yeah. I don't know if it's every child, but I do believe it should be part of every pregnant mother and couple that they need to see that. It needs to start there, right? I mean, or even before that happens, really. But it needs to start where we take in control of all that goes in our body.
Education definitely is always important. Knowledge is the key.
Yes. So that's what we're here for, right?
Well, I agree. That's part of it. As I say, the two parts of this show are to bring the heart and soul of the healers to everyone, and then to educate people so that they can be proactive in their own healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the things that we're seeing more and more now is that although medicine and doctors are getting more specialized and we know a lot more, sometimes getting into the system and dealing with the system is not as easy. And so it behooves each of us to take more responsibility for our own health care and not depend on the concept of, oh, if I get sick, there's a pill or there's a surgery or I can do this or that, but some responsibility. And I think that's where a lot of the shift is also happening. People are starting to realize, as we talk about healthcare in the communities and insurance companies and administrative processes and tort reform and malpractice, all of that, it all comes into the part that we all have our own responsibility to be part of that process and do the best we can for ourselves and others.
Absolutely. I am completely with you and totally agree with you. It starts with us.
It does. And I believe that at some point, in looking back on this show, if someone has an opportunity over an expanded period of time at looking at all of the concepts that we have talked about already and will talk about in the future, it'll be a great lesson plan for people to approach healthcare.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, we continue to forge forward, Dr. Woolman.
Yes, on our magical mystery medical middle
the mysterious galaxy of medicine. How's that?
I like that. Of healthcare also, yeah.
Oh, healthcare. Oh, yay.
So what was the biggest thing that you learned today that you didn't know?
What was the biggest thing that I learned?
Or most surprising?
That piece of toast. That was the most surprising to me. It really was. The combination of that, of people wanting to lose weight and they're eating so scarcely, and always saying, I mean, I was just on a conversation early this morning with a client of mine who just says, oh yeah, I've hardly been eating, but I can't, this weight is not coming off. And yeah, as you say, I've sometimes, watched what has been eaten. But to know that that piece of toast with a little bit of protein on it would shift on how that body absorbs that nutrition, basically, and if it creates the weight or it doesn't create the weight. That was like, oh wow, that's a new doozer for me, because I've never had to worry about that. I'm the one
Right.
that has this thick peanut butter or thick, almond butter on my bread with maple butter on top of that. So, it's like now it's like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting because again, with other nutritionalists, they don't say things like that.
Yeah. And then even among nutritionists, there can be disagreements about certain things, depending on what their program is.
Yeah, yeah. I do, I do. I am very interested in learning more about Ayurveda. The Ayurvedic health and diet, because it does go by the body types. It does go. It's such a mixture of, as you say, the Chinese medicine, which is about the hot and cold. The yin and yang in the body, and the little bits that I'm learning about Ayurveda and about how that balances as well. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, when I talk to people about that, I tell them, first of all, it's complex. It's not just simply a body type, because it takes a practitioner many years to understand that there's subtleties within a body type, just like subtleties within a pulse of a TAM doctor, a traditional Asian medicine doctor. They can feel subtleties in a pulse. And so I always tell them, go look at the diet on the internet and try and figure out your body type and see what they say you should have and what you shouldn't have, but don't get carried away with it. Right. Maybe there's a few ideas, or maybe you may even find something in there that says that confirms your own intuitive diet. You might say, well, I'm not a person that likes pistachios, for example. And then you find out that you look at the Ayurvedic diet and it says a person of your somewhat body type shouldn't eat pistachios. So right. Sometimes it gives people a good idea. It says, oh, wow, I have some intuition about this. So it's good to look at. But if you're going to actually go to an Ayurvedic diet, I always suggest that you first go to an Ayurvedic practitioner who can guide you more specifically rather than just in general. But if you're looking for just some general concepts, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Always go to the practitioner. It's like the homeopathy. It's like, go to a practitioner, find out which one, right?
Right. Yeah, it's very important. Healthcare is important, and we make amazing decisions about, we do a lot of research when we want to buy a car, or when we want to buy a house, or when we want to buy something very important, even a microwave or an oven. We do a lot of research on that, but we need to do that kind of research and maybe even more on our own health and the health of our families. Yeah. I'm grateful to my special guest, Dr. John LaPuma, for sharing his wisdom and experience. I also wish to thank all of my teachers and those that have healed me in my life. I look forward to meeting with you all again, along with Christina, as we explore the quadrants of the healthcare galaxy. In the meantime, until our next meeting, I wish you all optimal health.
Thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing you again next week on our magical medical tour with our wonderful medical guide, Dr. Glenn Woolman. Namaste, Glenn.
Namaste. Many blessings.